Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. I have a bit of a cold, but we gotta get this review out. So this is my review of Grave Torture, an Indonesian horror movie from 2024 that was directed by Joko Anwar. Now this is the second project by Anwar that I'm reviewing this October, with the other being Nightmares and Daydreams. That was a pretty good show. Now, the film Grave Torture opens with siblings Sita and Adil, who live with their parents in a small bakery. Their lives are shattered when their parents are killed in an act of terror. The perpetrator, driven by religious fear of Siksa Kubur, or Kubur, grave torture it's known as, believed his actions would save him from eternal torment after death. Now, the siblings are then taken to a holding room to be interviewed about the events, where they are found holding a mixed tape. Later, when they play the tape, the phrase grave torture is heard, accompanied by chilling screams and disturbing noises that hint at supernatural torment. Now, that plot synopsis sounded vaguely similar to a Koji Shiraishi horror film from back in the day, the late 2000s, which ended with a scene similar to the opening scene in Grave Torture. And that intrigued me because I was wondering how Joko Anwar would spin an act of public terror into a different premise for a horror movie. So, does he deliver here? I would say so. Now, I did get excited during the opening scene because Fakhri Albar shows up. And I'm a big fan of this guy, but his screen time is pretty minimal overall. In any case, it's a good dramatic introduction with multiple references to financial problems for the family, a common theme that we saw in Nightmares and Daydreams. But the big theme in Grave Torture is lack of faith in religion. The daughter, especially, takes a hard turn against religion after she witnesses that act of terror at the beginning. And the entire film revolves around this theme. Now, that is all well and good, and the overall execution is good, but my biggest criticism is that the script goes into too many directions at times. Like, the main theme is always present, but there are multiple subplots that begin to gain momentum, but are temporarily stalled with the constant, changing of focus. So, for example, near the 30-minute mark, we abruptly shift away from focusing on the little girl to instead getting a huge time jump to show her as an adult, being a caretaker for an old man. And that happening at that particular point kind of hurt the momentum of the movie, because Act 1 was just starting to continue to ramp up and crescendo, but instead we get a hard stop and then everything slows down again, which was a little bit frustrating. And this does happen multiple times in the film, even during the second half. There's a subplot regarding an old folks' home, a subplot regarding a television show type thing, etc. And I do think it's trying to do too much here. Too many subplots. They should have maybe reduced the number of different segments and spent more time on a smaller number of them. That would be my recommendation for this. But in the script's defense, it does become more intriguing near the midpoint when you begin to question whether or not there's going to be a supernatural angle in this movie at all. Because the film sets itself up to go either way. It's either supernatural events are happening, or these organized, religions they're focusing on are completely full of crap. And there's some legitimate dramatic tension between the brother and the sister because they believe different things. And the final 20 or so minutes land pretty nicely and wrap everything up well. Now, this movie does come to a definitive conclusion on this topic, at least within the context of the film. So you may dislike the ending, its conclusion, based on your own personal belief system. But I found that to be pretty interesting. Now, the scares are pretty good. There's a creepy tape recording scene, a few decent scenes in a dark tunnel, multiple found footage scenes inside of a grave, which do have some tension. A scene involving a household appliance that was pretty crazy. And the highlight sequence is the finale, which is very long and is pretty insane. So I would say that, the finale really kind of makes the movie. I really do think so. Like, if you asked me for, like, a rating of this or something, or an assessment before the final act, I would have said that this movie is, like, passable. It's pretty good. Good quality overall, but nothing that good. But with the final act in place, when you take that into consideration, it definitely gives this movie an additional notch up. Now, I still don't think this is quite as good as Joko Anwar's best horror movies. I think it's still a step down from those, but this is a pretty interesting flick, and it feels a little bit different based on some other flicks that have tackled this premise. So I recommend this. Also, I don't know if this is necessarily like a wildly entertaining horror movie either. Like, if you're having a Halloween party and you got people coming over and you want to just have a ball watching a movie, this may not be the right choice because the pacing is pretty slow. It's really the final act where everything like gets crazy. But yeah, I do recommend this. But watch it if you're more in tune for a slower burn. It's currently available on Netflix. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.